So we're gonna call this segment Prophet Talks, Soak Up Sauce, Infinite Mind, Infinite Thoughts. That's how we're gonna start off every video. So the first thing I wanna mention is that I'm getting back on camera. I took a long hiatus from the last time I was on camera. I remember I had dropped 2 videos and it was starting to do good. I was thinking talking to a camera, letting the people know what's going on with me was a lane for me, but I allowed myself to really doubt too much and too worried about what could go wrong instead of just taking more action. Ended up leaving that endeavor, never picking it up again. So one of the worst places to live in is shoulda, coulda, woulda, because there's this regret that kind of can't be healed. It's just disappointment, and it's disappointment with nobody else but yourself. And that's the kind of disappointment that doesn't leave easily. You gotta walk around with it every day and live with it. So I'm back here, Prophet Talks, hair grew longer, different attire, look different, feel different, seeing things different. So I guess it's a whole 360 from where I was. And I guess it was necessary for time to go by for me to really understand what was going on with me, for me to get back into the things that I think will fulfill my purpose. So yeah, nice little segue into Prophet Talks. More things to talk about, different setting. I don't want to just be at the home base all the time, out in nature, walks, daily life, conversations, interviews, man, just creative shit. So I want to talk about a couple of things that I learned as a man this year. Maybe some people can relate. Maybe this is going to be a completely new foreign experience for people. Maybe this is just some insight into what are some of the things that I went through and that I experienced and that I grew and learned from being in uncomfortable situations and not knowing how to navigate, but having to find a way to learn and adapt to the situation, as we all do every day with everything, all day, adapt. But anyways, getting back to the point. Staying calm, number one, staying calm. Why staying calm so important? Staying calm is a representation of your mastery of self-control, of your ability to hold back, of your ability to not let your emotions dictate your actions. Now, speaking for the male gender, for the men out there, we can all personally relate on the aspect that we must be in control of ourselves and our emotions at all times, no matter what, because one of the most dangerous men are men who do what they want when they feel like it and don't have a care in the world for the consequences. That is dangerous, because then a man can go out and kill somebody. Then a man can go out and kidnap somebody, hurt somebody, smash stores, smash property, burn things. A slew of, vicious criminal things that will happen when a man loses control. So staying calm is so important. Oftentimes you'll find in life that you have people that are outright enemies. You have people that oppose you. You have people that resist you, that are the antithesis, the opposite of your personality and your archetype. It just seems like no matter what it is you do, or in a way that showed you that it didn't really matter what you did, you could never be on good terms. You have to stay calm, because the very thing you don't want to do is actually give in, because by being frustrated, by letting that person, so to speak, twist your nipple and find your weakness, find the chink in your armor, where you're going to feel uncomfortable, where you're going to get agitated, where you will start to become defensive and show that that is a wound, that is somewhere you are sensitive at, and somewhere you don't like people poking around at. Some people smell blood in the water when that happens, right? They see where you crack, and then you're going to keep cracking at it until they see what you're made of or how far you fold. And when I mean fold, I just submit to their tactics and act in a way they want, really. Lose in a sense. Somebody keeps drilling the same thing at you and you finally accept it, like, okay, they're just always going to do this and I'm going to allow this to happen. You've lost, because they won the battle of wills. You can be having a conversation with somebody, but because your resolve and your will to prove your point was so much stronger, maybe you made the other person see light and see sense just because of the passion you had behind what you're talking about. So unbelievable what intention and energy can have with the message we're trying to deliver to any other person. But getting around back to the point, staying calm is a superpower, because it allows us to actually think. When you are angry and when you are frustrated and when you are in a state of mind where fury and rage are constant in the forefront of your mind, you cannot see straight. Things do not make sense to you. All you can think of is negative thoughts. And all they do is serve to harm you in the long run, because nothing done in anger or frustration is usually good, and it never benefits you acting out of emotion. Have you ever thought about this and you think back to all your life situation and all the sequences of events that led to very terrible things in your life happening? And when you really think about them, when you picture them, where you try to remember how these things panned out in your life from event one to the last event, when you think about it, when you lost control, did it ever end up a good thing? Did you lash out at somebody? Did you insult somebody? Did you call out somebody by their name? Did you challenge the wrong person? Did somebody have enough of your antics and decide to punish you and lash out at you? Did you break something that you can't mend, that you can't fix? Did you say something that can't be taken back or unheard or unsaid? And these are the things that end up happening. And that is a result of actually losing control and letting the trigger loose and letting it fly. We have to realize that no matter how trivial, no matter how small, all of our words, all of our intention, our energy, and our goal, our objective, when we do whatever we do in rage, even if we're not thinking straight, we mean that in that moment, because all we can see is red, and we're going to act based on that feeling. We've got to realize that every single thing that is done is always going to push us further back from ourselves. Anger is, I heard one time, it was a beautiful quote that I read that said that anger is the punishment we give ourselves for somebody else's mistake. Wow. Think about that for a second. You did something to me. I don't like it. I'm angry about it. Maybe you're not as angry as I am because you're the one who did me wrong. So you did something I didn't like. I got angry. Punched a hole in the wall. I kicked a couple of things over. I hit my hand, started bleeding. I was in a fit of rage. Is that my fault or yours? That all those side effects, the consequences of my rage, the wall being broken, things being thrown around. No, it isn't your fault that I'm angry. Anger is me punishing myself for a mistake that you made. But where we get it confused is that we make the anger internal and project outwards when we're really just punishing ourselves because the mistake wasn't ours in the first place. So we have to change the way we look at things. So bringing this back full circle, staying calm. Staying calm, why is it important? Because staying calm shows you the bigger picture. If somebody is in an argument or a discussion with you, or if somebody is seemingly losing their emotions when interacting with you, your ability to stay calm will allow you to see clearly, will allow you to negotiate a conversation, an interaction, negotiate the energy between you so that a beneficial outcome can be sought after. You can use words that can influence somebody to change the energy and the environment and what is being said. Staying calm gives you the insight to understand how to navigate the tension. You need to be able to de-escalate. You need to be able to think your way through things and understand them at a level where you can communicate what you think and your messages. You have to be able to communicate what you're thinking, and you have to be able to understand what's going on with the other person. So maybe you can see clearly, and while they can't see clearly because they can see red, you can bring them to clarity because you're calm and they're not. But how can you do that if you're just as mad as them and all you're doing is fighting? It's like war. It's warfare. All we're doing is warring against each other. So your army's always going to have soldiers that die. My army's always going to have soldiers that die. And we're both generals with big, vast armies sending more soldiers back to back after each other. So all they're going to do is just keep slaughtering each other on the battlefield until one of us wins. And there's never really any winner because so much blood has been shed. That's a metaphor for going back and forth with that person, being so negative, tearing them down, demoralizing them, disrespecting them, hurting them, using things that they know will affect you in the long run, or you using things that will hurt a person in a certain place, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. We all make our decisions. That is the metaphorical version of that. You fighting with another person, an associate, an acquaintance, a family member, somebody that you love or care about, maybe an old friend, a stranger, somebody you met, anyone. When you're warring against each other, you're always in warfare. Warfare is always around you. So staying calm while you're in warfare, you're going to become unstoppable, because then you can understand the war. And And I believe that being calm is actually another state of chaos. Calmness doesn't mean that there's nothing going inside or there's nothing bothering you. I think calmness is always keeping under control the storms that are going on within you, the chaos that is whirling all around you, the intrusive thoughts, the evil and nasty impulses that we all have, the dark places that we go sometimes when we daydream or we close our eyes during the day. You know, what we imagine, what we think about, what we fantasize about. All those things happen and, we don't talk about them, but they're real. And it allows you to see things clearly. Now, the second thing that I learned this year, 2023, as a man, is that you have to evaluate your actions. And the only way you do that is feedback. Right? So if I do something, I want to know if it's good or bad, so I need feedback. And if I don't get feedback, I'll believe that the way that I'm doing it is the right way or the only way, and it might be completely incorrect. And I might go years doing that same thing, that same technique, and performing it the same way incorrectly for so many years because I never got any feedback. Nobody ever came in and told me, hey, listen, if I was weightlifting and form's horrible, you'll break your back in 5 years like that. You can't lift that many pounds at this big level or at this training level. You're not experienced yet. Somebody to check me and give me a reality check. It's very difficult to put that kind of into perspective. You really don't know everything. And I also want to mention that you have to understand where you're at and what you're doing, what is going on with you. You have to really be self-evaluating. How could I have done better? Where did I go wrong? Because sometimes you can really just be so careless and so absent-minded that you forget that you are an avatar within this body. So you can place yourself outside of this body and think about what is going on in the world within. Everything within is external. So if I'm chaotic in here, I'm going to create chaos in here, which is the real world, which is reality, which is every time I wake up and I will go outside my house. Your internal realm is your external realm. It sounds cliche, but literally whatever's inside becomes outside because it's what I project, it's what I create, it's what comes outward. So, for example, self-evaluation. Maybe I have a presentation in a business class and I have to present in front of the class, and it is an extensive project. It's taking a long time. It's a big part of my grade. Let's say it's 30%, 40% of my grade. It's a final project. What's gonna be important about that presentation is practicing for, is training for, and is evaluating what you are actively doing. How can you evaluate where you're at? Can you remember your presentation? If somebody were to ask you about your presentation, could you explain it to them in simple words? Could you explain it to them in under 5 minutes? Could you explain it to a little child if you needed to? What are the key principles of your presentation? What are the things that everyone must know? What are the things that people will learn from this? What will they leave with? How will you educate them? What information are you providing? What are you introducing to the market? What information are you introducing to these newfound readers or these newfound listeners who have never heard about your topic and subject? As a person who knows nothing about your subject, how much more informed will I leave after hearing your presentation and hearing the information you have to share? Will I leave knowing a lot, a little? Can I remember anything? Will I retain any information to be able to relay it to somebody else? All that's going to be important, and all that will depend on how much self-evaluation you've done. Self-evaluation is really just asking yourself questions, and you always find the answer whenever you ask yourself questions. It's the scariest thing ever. I don't know why nobody ever talks about this, but do you ever ask yourself a question and the answer doesn't pop up? Whether it's like your intuition or a deep feeling or sensation in your gut, like something goes up, or maybe it's a tingle in your brain, or maybe a thought pops up, or maybe you see it out there. Everyone has their own way of imagining and creating thoughts. But I believe that everyone has asked themselves a question and the answer came immediately. I don't think there's a human being on this earth who hasn't asked himself a question and the answer hasn't been within them, because the answer is always there. And so maybe the question's hard and it might take a lot of time to answer. And maybe they need to go through more life experiences for them to even have the answer to the question. But there's never been a time where a person didn't ask themselves a question and didn't get an answer. And sometimes it's almost immediately. You have three brains. You have this brain right here. You have another brain, which is your heart. And the Egyptians knew this. They said the heart is the seat of intelligence. And then you have the third brain. You have the third brain right here, which is your gut. And your gut is that intuition and that instinct. So we have three brains. So we must self-evaluate. We must ask ourselves questions. We must look further into our actions. So self-evaluating for the presentation is, okay, where am I at with this presentation? How much do I know? Can I explain this well? Do I understand it? What are the key principles? Can I always take this information away no matter how long it's been? These are things that are important to know. And so by the time it comes to present the project or the business presentation, let's call it, the business communication to the rest of the class, all this self-evaluation will be shown, represented when I'm up there and I'm comfortable and I'm sharing the information and I'm not reading off the notes or the board and I'm looking at people in their eyes and I'm answering questions and I'm ready and I'm very confident in what I'm saying. I'm sure of myself and I'm explaining things from my own perspective, a fundamental understanding of what I need to be knowing, still addressing the questions and concerns and the criteria and the rubric that the assessment would have called for, all these things. And so it all boils down to self-evaluation. So whenever you have time, you have to ask yourself questions about situations that happened that day, interactions you had with somebody. Something might have not felt right. You might have not agreed with how something went. So what should you do? You shouldn't just complain about it. You shouldn't whine about it. You shouldn't feel negative about it. And if you're gonna internalize it and end up treating everybody else around you horribly, then you're just not very bright, because you're looking at it like something that should be held on to, right? This person did this or said this to me today and I'm going to feel like this, or something bad happened at work, something bad happened at home. I'm mad and I refuse to treat anybody in a respectful manner because I refuse to deal with it within myself. So I'm now going to let it dictate my actions, my energy, and I'm going to let it ruin me and disturb my environment and disrupt others, which will then disrupt me because of how I'm disrupting them. It's a bad cycle. Anytime something happens throughout the day, the week, the month, and with whoever, ask yourself, like, okay, why did it happen, right? Ask yourself questions about it, and you'll end up finding out answers. Now, the way you ask questions, or what you ask, is going to depend on the person. But at the end of the day, ultimately, you need to know. So those are two very important things I learned about myself as a man this year in 2023. See you. Profit talks, pick up sauce, infinite thoughts. I'm out.